Listening and repeating is one of the most powerful ways to improve your speaking skills. It helps you learn how real English sounds, not just how it looks on paper. Watch TV shows, movies, YouTube videos, or listen to English podcasts and songs. As you listen, pay attention to how native speakers pronounce words, stress syllables, and use rhythm and tone in their sentences. Then, try to imitate them. You can pause after a sentence or phrase and repeat exactly what you heard. Try to copy the speaker's pronunciation, speed, and emotion. At first, it may feel strange, but this technique helps your mouth and tongue get used to English sounds. This method is called shadowing. In shadowing, you listen to a sentence and repeat it immediately after, almost at the same time. This trains your ear and your mouth together, helping you speak more smoothly and naturally. With practice, your pronunciation will become clearer, your speech rhythm will improve, and you'll start to sound much more confident and fluent. 4. Expand your vocabulary. Having a strong vocabulary is one of the keys to fluent speaking. The more words and expressions you know, the easier it becomes to express yourself clearly and naturally. But don't just memorize single words. Try to learn phrases and expressions that people actually use in daily life. For example, instead of only learning the word happy, you can learn phrases like, "I'm over the moon." "I feel on top of the world." "That made my day." These expressions make your English sound more natural and alive. To build your vocabulary, do activities that expose you to real English. Read books, articles, or short stories. Watch English videos or listen to podcasts. Notice new words or expressions you don't know. When you find new words, write them down and try to use them in your own sentences. You could even make a new words journal. Then, challenge yourself to use those new words when you speak, maybe in your next conversation with your language buddy or when talking to yourself. Remember, you don't really learn a word until you use it. Active use turns vocabulary into something you can recall quickly when you speak. 5. Record yourself speaking. Recording yourself is a simple but very powerful way to improve. When you listen to your own voice, you'll notice things that you might not realize while speaking, like mispronounced words, awkward pauses, or unclear pronunciation. You can start small. Try reading a short paragraph from a book or article out loud and record it. Then listen carefully to how you sound. Ask yourself, do I speak clearly? Am I pausing naturally? Are my sentences smooth? Afterward, record it again, but this time, try to improve based on what you noticed. Don't worry about sounding perfect. This is for practice, not performance. Over time, you'll hear your progress. Your pronunciation will improve, your speech will sound smoother, and you'll start to feel proud of how much clearer you've become. It's also a great confidence booster because you can actually hear your growth. 6. Think in English. Thinking in English is one of the most important steps toward fluency. Most learners, especially beginners, first think in their native language and then translate into English before speaking. This takes time and often makes your sentences sound unnatural. To speak fluently, you need to train your brain to think directly in English. At first, this may seem difficult, but it becomes easier with regular practice. Start small. For example, when you look around your room, name objects in English: table, chair, window, lamp. When you walk outside, describe what you see. The sky is blue. The air feels cool. When you're planning your day, think in English: I need to finish my homework, call my friend, and cook dinner. Avoid translating in your head. If you don't know a word, try to describe it using other English words instead of switching to your native language. For example, if you forget the word umbrella, you could say, the thing you use when it rains. The more you do this, the faster your brain will get used to thinking in English naturally. Over time, sentences will come out more quickly and smoothly, without needing to translate first. Thinking in English is like switching your brain into English mode. Once you master this, you'll feel more confident, and your speaking will sound much more natural and fluent. Continue. Practical tips to improve your English speaking skills, Part 2. 7. Use language learning apps. Language learning apps can be a very helpful tool for practicing English, especially if you want structured, daily practice. Apps like Duolingo, Rosetta Stone, and Babbel include fun speaking exercises that help you work on pronunciation, vocabulary, and sentence patterns. Many of these apps also use speech recognition technology, which means they can listen to your voice and give you instant feedback on your pronunciation. For example, if you say a word incorrectly, the app will show you how to pronounce it properly next time. Apps are a great way to build your foundation and keep your learning consistent. You can practice anywhere, even for just a few minutes a day. However, remember that while apps are excellent for learning vocabulary, grammar, and pronunciation, they can't fully replace real-life conversation. So try to use them as a supporting tool, not your only method. Practice with apps regularly, but also make time to talk with real people. That combination will help you improve much faster and make your English sound more natural and confident. 8. Practice speaking slowly and clearly. Many English learners feel nervous and try to speak quickly, thinking that fast speech means fluency. But speaking too fast can actually make communication harder for both you and your listener. Instead of rushing, focus on speaking slowly and clearly. Take your time to pronounce each word correctly and organize your thoughts before speaking. It's much better to speak slowly and be understood than to speak quickly and feel lost. When you speak slowly, you give yourself time to think about what you want to say next. It also helps you improve your pronunciation and accuracy because you can hear yourself more clearly. If you find certain sounds or words difficult, practice them slowly first. Repeat them several times until they feel natural. For example, if you struggle with words like world, girl, or thought, practice saying them slowly and clearly. Once you can pronounce them correctly at a slow pace, you can gradually speed up. Remember, fluency is not about speed, it's about comfort and confidence. When you speak calmly and clearly, you'll feel more relaxed and your listeners will understand you better. 9. Join speaking clubs or English groups. Joining a speaking club or group is one of the best ways to practice real conversations in a friendly, low-pressure environment. Podcast script: I understand English, but I can't speak it. Simplified version. Hello, dear English learners, and welcome to today's podcast episode. I'm really happy that you're here with me because today we're going to talk about something that almost every English learner has experienced at some point. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever noticed that you can understand English very well, but when you try to speak, you just can't find the words? Maybe you can read books, watch movies, or listen to English songs easily. You understand what people are saying. But when it's your turn to talk, your mind goes blank. You know the words, but they don't come out. If this sounds familiar, don't worry, you are not alone. This happens to many English learners around the world. It can feel really frustrating. Sometimes you might even think, why can I understand everything, but I still can't speak? Well, I want to tell you something important. Understanding English is already a big success. It means you've built a strong foundation. You've done a lot of hard work to get here. The next step is to turn that understanding into confident speaking. And the good news is you can do it. In this episode, we'll talk about why this happens and what you can do to overcome it. By the end, you'll have some simple and practical tips to start speaking more freely and confidently in your daily life, whether you're learning English for school, work, travel, or just for fun. A real-life story. Let me tell you a story about my friend Sarah. Sarah was a great English student. She studied English for many years and knew a lot of grammar and vocabulary. She could read English books, watch movies without subtitles, and understand everything perfectly. But when it came to speaking, she had a problem. I remember one day we went to a cafe together. I told her, let's order our coffee in English, it will be good practice. She smiled and said, okay. But when we reached the counter, something unexpected happened. The barista looked at her and said, what would you like to order? And then, silence. Sarah froze. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. She could hear the words in her head, but she couldn't say them. Afterward, she looked at me and said, "I know what I want to say. I understand everything. But when it's my turn to speak, I get nervous. I'm afraid I'll make a mistake or sound silly." This is something that happens to so many learners. It's not because you don't know English. It's because of fear of making mistakes, fear of being judged, or fear of not sounding perfect. But here's the truth. Making mistakes is part of learning. Nobody speaks perfectly, even native speakers. The more you speak, the more comfortable you'll become. Why this happens? There are a few common reasons why people can understand English but struggle to speak it. Lack of speaking practice. Many learners spend more time reading and listening, but not enough time talking. Your brain understands English, but your mouth needs practice too. Fear of mistakes. You might be worried about saying something wrong or being laughed at. This fear blocks your confidence. Translating in your head. If you're always thinking in your native language first, it takes extra time to translate into English. That delay makes you freeze. Perfectionism. Wanting to speak perfect English can stop you from speaking at all. Remember, progress is more important than perfection. How to improve your speaking. Here are some simple, effective things you can do to improve your speaking confidence. Speak a little every day. You don't need long conversations. Just practice short sentences. Talk about your day. Describe what you see, or say your thoughts out loud. Think in English. Try not to translate. Start with simple thoughts like, "I'm hungry," "It's raining," or "I'm going to study." This helps your brain connect ideas directly in English. Find a speaking partner. Practice with a friend, classmate, or language exchange partner. You can even use apps to find people learning your language in exchange for English. Record yourself. This is powerful. Record your voice and listen. You'll notice your pronunciation, rhythm, and areas for improvement. You'll also realize how much better you get over time. Don't be afraid of mistakes. Mistakes are not failures. They're signs that you're learning. Every time you make one, you're getting closer to fluency. Final thoughts. Remember, if you can understand English, you are already halfway there. Now it's time to build confidence and use what you know. Start small, be kind to yourself, and keep going. Like Sarah, you might feel shy at first. But with time, practice, and the right mindset, you'll find your voice in English. So the next time you think, "I understand English, but I can't speak it," remind yourself you can. You just need to start. Speak a little every day and trust the process. Thank you so much for listening today. I hope this episode inspires you to speak more confidently and enjoy your English journey. Keep practicing, keep smiling, and I'll see you in the next episode. Podcast script, Part 2, Simplified and Natural Version. Maybe you've also felt the same way. You understand everything, but when it's your turn to speak, you freeze. You might worry about making mistakes, or maybe you're afraid that others will judge you. I want to remind you, these feelings are completely normal. You are not alone. In fact, I've talked to many English learners who feel the same, including some advanced students. They can understand movies, books, and conversations perfectly, but when it's time to speak, it feels like a mountain they can't climb. And honestly, I've been there too. I remember feeling so confident when listening or reading English. But the moment I had to speak, my mind would go blank. I wanted to say something, but I just couldn't. For my friend Sarah, the same thing happened. But over time, she learned how to overcome that fear. The biggest change for her was in her mindset. At first, she was so focused on being perfect. She didn't want to make any mistakes. But once she realized that mistakes are part of learning, everything started to change. Every time she made a mistake, she learned something new. Sarah started small. She practiced speaking with me using simple sentences. Sometimes she wasn't sure if they were correct, but she said them anyway. Slowly, her confidence started to grow. Later, she joined a local English-speaking club where learners came together just to talk in English. They shared stories, played games, and helped each other. Sarah also began talking to strangers, in cafes, at events, or while traveling, even when her grammar wasn't perfect. And you know what? Her confidence grew stronger and stronger. It wasn't about perfection anymore. It was about communication. She learned that English is a tool to connect with people, not something you have to use perfectly. Today, Sarah is one of the most confident English speakers I know. She travels the world, meets people from different countries, and uses English every day in her job. Looking back, she told me that the most important change she made was this. I stopped trying to sound perfect and started trying to communicate. That simple shift changed everything. I'm sharing Sarah's story because her experience is not unusual. Many learners go through the exact same challenge. But just like Sarah, you can overcome it too. It takes 3 things: practice, patience, and courage to make mistakes. The more you practice, the more natural it becomes. And one day, you'll realize that speaking English feels just as easy as understanding it. Why does this happen? If you understand English but struggle to speak it, you might be wondering, why is this happening? It's confusing, right? You've studied hard, learned so many words, practiced grammar, and can understand movies or conversations easily. But when you open your mouth to speak, the words just don't come out. The truth is, this is a very common experience for language learners. And there are a few simple reasons why understanding and speaking don't always go hand in hand. 1. Lack of speaking practice. One of the biggest reasons is simply not practicing enough speaking. Speaking is a skill, just like playing the guitar or learning to cook. You can read about it all you want, but you won't improve until you actually do it. Many learners spend a lot of time reading, listening, or studying grammar, which are all great. But they don't get enough opportunities to speak. When you don't practice speaking, it's natural to feel nervous when you finally have to use English in real life. Speaking requires you to think quickly, form sentences fast, and respond in real time. Unlike listening or reading, where you have time to think, speaking is immediate, and that can feel scary if you're not used to it. But here's the good news: the more you speak, the easier it gets. At first, it might feel awkward or slow. But if you speak a little bit every day, your brain and your mouth start to work together more smoothly. If you only speak English once in a while, you'll probably freeze up when it's time to use it. But if you make speaking a daily habit, even for just 5 minutes, you'll be amazed at how quickly you improve. Podcast script, Part 3, Simplified and Conversational. Now, let's talk about another big reason why many learners can understand English but still struggle to speak it. Reason 2, fear of making mistakes. This is one of the most common challenges for English learners, the fear of making mistakes. We often stop ourselves from speaking because we're afraid we'll say something wrong. Maybe we'll use the wrong tense, mispronounce a word, or forget a phrase. And that fear can be really strong. We worry that people might laugh, or that we'll embarrass ourselves. But here's the truth: making mistakes is how you learn. Every English speaker, yes, every single one, has made mistakes while learning. Even native speakers make grammar mistakes or mix up words sometimes. When you make a mistake, it's not a failure. It's a sign that you're trying. And every mistake teaches you something new. The more you practice, the better you become. Think about it. When you were a child learning your first language, you made hundreds of mistakes, but nobody stopped you. You just kept talking until it became natural. Learning English works the same way. So, instead of being afraid of mistakes, try to embrace them. See them as stepping stones on your journey to fluency. Every time you speak, even imperfectly, you're getting closer to confidence. And remember, no one expects you to speak perfectly. The goal is communication, not perfection. Reason 3, Lack of confidence. Sometimes the problem isn't about language knowledge at all, it's about confidence. You might understand English perfectly well, but you don't feel confident enough to speak. Maybe you're afraid that your accent sounds strange or that your English isn't good enough. Maybe you compare yourself to native speakers or more advanced learners and feel discouraged. But here's something important. Confidence comes from action. You don't wait to feel confident before you speak. You build confidence by speaking. When you take small steps, like speaking a few sentences a day, joining a conversation, or practicing with a friend, your confidence grows naturally. You start to realize that people don't actually care if you make small mistakes. What matters most is that you are expressing yourself. So don't wait until you feel ready, just start speaking now. Each time you open your mouth, you're getting stronger and more comfortable. Confidence grows one conversation at a time. Reason 4. Speaking speed and fluency. Another reason speaking might feel hard is related to speed and fluency. You might understand English perfectly when you listen, but when you try to speak, your mind seems to slow down. You search for the right words, pause too long, and feel stuck. This happens because speaking is an active skill. It's not just about knowing vocabulary or grammar, it's about being able to find and connect words quickly in real time. When you don't speak often, your brain takes longer to recall the words you want. For example, you might know the word apple, but when you try to use it in a sentence, it takes a few seconds for your brain to find it. That delay makes you feel nervous or frustrated. The good news is fluency improves with practice. The more you speak, the faster your brain becomes at finding the words. It's like training a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. So don't worry if you speak slowly at first. Speed will come naturally over time. Focus on speaking clearly, not quickly. And remember, fluency is not about speaking fast, it's about speaking comfortably. Podcast script. Part 4. Simplified and natural. Reason 5. Fear of communication breakdown. Finally, some learners are afraid of something I call a communication breakdown. This means they worry that the person they're talking to won't understand them, maybe because of their accent, a grammar mistake, or an incorrect sentence. That fear can make us hesitate. We think, what if they don't understand me? Or what if I say something wrong and it sounds strange? But here's something really important to remember. Communication is not about perfection. It's not about using fancy grammar or speaking like a native. It's about getting your message across. Even if you make mistakes, even if your accent is strong, if your listener understands you, that's success. That's real communication. Most people won't judge you for your accent or small errors. In fact, they'll appreciate the effort you're making to speak their language. And if they don't understand something, they'll usually ask you to repeat it, just like native speakers do with each other all the time. So, don't let the fear of being misunderstood stop you from trying. Remember, speaking is not a performance, it's a connection. Reason 6. Limited vocabulary recall. Another reason some learners struggle to speak, even when they understand English, is limited vocabulary recall. This doesn't mean you don't know enough words. You might actually know hundreds or even thousands of English words. The problem is when you're speaking, your brain can't find them fast enough. You've probably had this happen before. You want to say something, but you can't remember the right word. It's right there in your mind, but it just won't come out. That's vocabulary recall. This happens when we spend more time reading and listening than speaking. Reading and listening are passive skills, but speaking is active. When you speak, your brain has to find and use words in real time. That takes practice. The good news is, vocabulary recall improves quickly once you start speaking more often. When you use new words in conversations, your brain strengthens the memory of those words. So the next time you need them, they'll come to you faster and more naturally. That's why speaking practice is so important. It's what turns knowledge into ability. Wrapping up the challenges. So, as you can see, there are many reasons why you might understand English, but still find it difficult to speak. A lack of practice, fear of making mistakes, low confidence, problems with fluency or speed, fear of communication breakdown, limited vocabulary recall. These are all very common challenges for English learners. But the good news is none of these are permanent. With the right mindset and consistent practice, you can absolutely overcome them. The first step is understanding why this happens. The next step is learning how to take action, and that's exactly what we'll talk about next. The importance of speaking practice. Now that we've looked at why so many learners understand English but find speaking hard, let's move on to the solution, speaking practice. If your goal is to become fluent and confident in English, speaking is the key. It's the most powerful way to bring together everything you've learned: grammar, vocabulary, listening, and pronunciation, and turn it into real communication. But why is speaking practice so important? Why is it the one skill that makes the biggest difference in your English progress? Let's talk about that. 1. Speaking connects knowledge to action. When you're learning English, you might spend a lot of time studying grammar rules, memorizing vocabulary, and reading texts. All of that is great. It builds your understanding. But speaking is what connects that knowledge to action. You can study grammar for years, but if you never use it, it stays in your head like unused information. Speaking forces your brain to take what you've learned and turn it into real sentences. It's like switching from knowing English to using English. The more you speak, the stronger that connection becomes, and soon, forming sentences starts to feel natural, not forced. 1. Speaking bridges the gap between knowledge and action. Listening to English, reading books, or watching movies, these are all wonderful activities for understanding the language. But here's something many learners don't realize. Understanding a language and using it actively are two completely different things. When you practice speaking, you connect what you've learned in your mind with real-life communication. It's like taking everything you've studied, vocabulary, grammar, sentence patterns, and putting it into action, as if you're taking a live test where every question is a moment of real conversation. Think of it this way. You may know all the English words for food, sandwich, spaghetti, juice, dessert, but when you walk into a restaurant, you might hesitate to order in English. Why? Because you haven't used those words in real conversation. Your brain recognizes them but doesn't retrieve them fast enough. Speaking regularly changes that. It helps you recall vocabulary and grammar rules instantly, exactly when you need them. It strengthens the bridge between knowledge and action. The more you speak, the faster your brain becomes at forming sentences, recalling words, and thinking directly in English. It also makes your English more practical. You're no longer learning for a test, you're learning for life. And when you use English in real situations, ordering food, asking for directions, joining a meeting, those experiences make the language stick deeply in your memory. 2. Speaking practice builds confidence. One of the biggest challenges in speaking English isn't grammar or vocabulary, it's confidence. Even advanced learners can freeze up when it's time to talk. They know the language, but they hesitate. That's because confidence doesn't come from knowledge, it comes from experience. The more you practice speaking, the more comfortable you become hearing your own voice in English. At first, it might feel awkward. You'll stumble over words, forget sentences, or make small mistakes, and that's perfectly normal. Confidence isn't built overnight. It grows little by little with every conversation you have. When you speak regularly, you start to see that making mistakes is not a sign of failure. It's proof that you're learning. Each mistake you make and correct adds another brick to your wall of confidence. Think about it. If you never step out of your comfort zone, you'll always stay in the same place. But if you push yourself, even for just 5 minutes a day, you'll begin to see progress. Those short moments of courage accumulate over time and turn into lasting confidence. The more you expose yourself to real conversations, whether with a friend, teacher, or language partner, the more natural you'll feel. And one day, you'll realize you're no longer trying to sound confident. You are confident. 3. Speaking helps you think in English. One of the most powerful transformations that comes from regular speaking practice is that it teaches you to think in English. This is one of the key differences between learners and fluent speakers. At the beginning, most learners think in their native language first, then translate into English. That's why speaking can feel slow or frustrating. You might know exactly what you want to say, but your brain is busy translating, checking grammar, and searching for words all at once. But when you practice speaking often, something incredible happens. Your brain begins to rewire itself. It starts recognizing English as its own system, not just a translation of your mother tongue. You begin forming ideas directly in English, not sentence by sentence, but thought by thought. And this is where fluency truly begins. You no longer pause to translate, "How are you?" from your language into English. It simply comes out. You start understanding idioms, jokes, and expressions instantly because your mind operates in English patterns. To reach that level, you need consistency. You need to speak so often that English starts to feel like a reflex, something automatic and effortless. It's not magic. It's repetition, exposure, and trust in your ability to grow. The more you practice, the faster your brain will switch modes. One day, you'll catch yourself thinking or even dreaming in English, and that's the sign that you've truly crossed into fluency. 4. Speaking practice improves pronunciation and listening. Another incredible benefit of speaking practice is how it sharpens your pronunciation and, surprisingly, your listening skills too. When you speak aloud, you become more aware of how words sound, how your mouth moves, and how rhythm and intonation shape meaning. You begin to hear the difference between ship and sheep or live and leave. At first, you might notice that your pronunciation feels stiff or unnatural. That's okay. The goal isn't to sound like a native speaker overnight. It's to sound clear and confident. And the more you practice speaking, the more natural your pronunciation becomes. Speaking also makes you a better listener. When you speak, you start to notice patterns in how others speak, tone, stress, pauses, and that awareness improves your comprehension. You begin to understand not just the words, but the music of English. So in a way, speaking and listening are twins, each one strengthens the other. Wrapping up, speaking practice is not just about words, it's about transformation. It turns silent understanding into living communication. It builds confidence, reshapes your thoughts, improves pronunciation, and connects you to others in a deeply human way. Remember this. The more you speak, the more fluent you become, not because you learn new rules, but because you trust yourself to use what you already know. Fluency is not perfection. Fluency is freedom. And that freedom begins the moment you decide to speak, today, tomorrow, and every day after that. 4. Speaking practice improves pronunciation and fluency. Pronunciation and fluency are two areas that can improve dramatically with consistent speaking practice. You can read perfectly and understand English easily, but if you don't practice speaking, your pronunciation won't reach its full potential. Speaking uses a completely different set of muscles and skills. When you speak, you're not just using your brain, you're using your mouth, your tongue, your breath, and your ears together. These work in harmony to produce the sounds, rhythm, and melody of English. Through speaking practice, you give yourself the chance to focus on pronunciation, to actually hear how you sound and make small, intentional improvements. You can work on specific sounds, reduce your accent if you want to, and develop smoother, more natural speech. And this doesn't happen through listening or reading alone. It requires active speaking and attention. You have to open your mouth, say the words out loud, and feel the rhythm of English. Fluency grows the same way. Fluency is not about speaking fast. It's about speaking comfortably, clearly, and naturally. When you practice regularly, you'll notice your hesitation fading away. You'll find words faster. Sentences will flow more easily. Ideas will connect smoothly. Each time you speak, you train your brain to retrieve language more efficiently, and that's how you begin to sound like a fluent speaker. 5. Speaking practice strengthens listening skills. At first, it might seem like speaking and listening are two separate skills, but in reality, they're deeply connected. In fact, practicing speaking can make you a better listener. Here's why. When you speak English, you also have to listen carefully to your conversation partner. You need to understand what they say so you can respond appropriately. That back-and-forth exchange, that real-time communication, trains your brain to listen actively and process information faster. For example, if you're talking with a friend or teacher, you have to pay close attention to their tone, their choice of words, even their body language. Every conversation becomes a mini listening lesson. And when you practice speaking in real-life situations, you're exposed to the natural rhythm of English, the pace, the flow, the intonation. You'll start to notice how native speakers connect words, use expressions, and emphasize certain sounds. The more you listen while you speak, the better you understand how English feels in real communication. It's like learning to ride a bicycle. You can't separate balance from movement. Speaking and listening work together the same way. They develop in harmony. 6. Speaking practice makes you a better communicator. At its core, language is not about grammar or vocabulary. It's about communication. It's about connecting your ideas with another person's understanding. When you practice speaking, you're not just improving your pronunciation or grammar, you're learning how to express yourself clearly and connect with others emotionally. You begin to understand what makes a good conversation, how to start small talk, ask questions naturally, share opinions, and respond with empathy. You learn how to adjust your tone depending on the situation, friendly, formal, polite, or persuasive. It's not just about what you say, it's about how you say it and how you listen in return. Speaking practice teaches you to handle real interactions, from ordering coffee to giving presentations, from chatting with friends to attending interviews. You become not just an English speaker, but an effective communicator. 7. Speaking practice helps you achieve your goals faster. If your goal is to speak English fluently and confidently, then speaking practice is the fastest path to get there. Reading, writing, and listening are all important, but they prepare you for communication. Speaking is communication. It gives you immediate feedback. It forces your brain to recall words, structure sentences, and express meaning in real time. And that's where true fluency develops, not in theory, but in practice. Every minute you spend speaking brings you one step closer to the version of yourself who can express thoughts freely, connect with people globally, and achieve your academic, professional, or personal goals in English. Speaking is not just an exercise, it's transformation in action. The more you do it, the faster you'll grow. Final thought. Fluency is built through use, not perfection. You don't need to sound like a native speaker. You just need to sound like you, confident and clear in English. So keep speaking to friends, to yourself, to your mirror, to your voice recorder. Every word you say plants a seed of fluency. Remember, you don't wait until you're fluent to start speaking. You start speaking, and that's how you become fluent. Improvement through speaking practice. When you practice speaking, you give yourself real opportunities to use English in action. This active use of language is one of the most powerful ways to improve. Think about it. When you listen or read, you are understanding English passively. But when you speak, you have to produce the language. You have to remember words, form sentences, and express ideas, all at the same time. That process strengthens your memory, your confidence, and your fluency. The more you speak, the faster you'll improve. Each time you open your mouth and use English, you're training your brain to think in English, to recall vocabulary more easily, and to speak more naturally. Speaking practice also helps you remember what you learn. When you say something out loud, you use your muscles, your voice, and your mind together. That physical action makes learning deeper and more permanent than just listening or reading silently. So if you truly want to become fluent, speaking practice is essential. It connects your knowledge to real action, builds confidence, helps you think directly in English, improves pronunciation and fluency, strengthens listening skills, and makes you a better communicator. And remember, it's okay if speaking feels difficult at first. Everyone starts somewhere. The more you practice, the easier and more natural it becomes. With time, you'll notice yourself speaking more smoothly and confidently without even realizing it. In the next section, let's talk about how to overcome the fear of speaking, because that's one of the biggest barriers for many learners. Overcoming the fear of speaking. One of the most common challenges English learners face is the fear of speaking. You might feel nervous, shy, or even scared to talk in English. Maybe you're afraid of making mistakes, or you worry that others will judge your accent or grammar. If you feel this way, you're not alone. Every learner has felt the same at some point. The good news is that this fear can be overcome. It takes time, practice, and the right mindset. Let's go step by step. 1. Understand that fear is normal. The first thing to remember is that fear is completely normal. Almost everyone who learns a second language feels afraid in the beginning. Even advanced learners or native speakers sometimes feel nervous when speaking in public. It's not a sign that you're weak or bad at English. It's actually a sign that you're growing. You're stepping out of your comfort zone, and that's where real improvement happens. When you feel fear, it means you're challenging yourself, and every time you push through it, you become stronger and more confident. So instead of trying to avoid the fear, accept it. See it as part of your learning journey. Remember, fear doesn't mean stop. It means you're learning something new. 2. Shift your focus from perfection to progress. Many learners are afraid to speak because they want to sound perfect. They want their grammar, pronunciation, and vocabulary to be flawless. But perfection is not realistic. Even native speakers make mistakes every single day. The goal is not to be perfect. The goal is to make progress. Every time you speak, you improve. Every mistake teaches you something new. When you change your mindset from "I must be perfect" to "I'm learning and growing," you take away the pressure that causes fear. You free yourself to speak more naturally, more confidently, and more often. Think about it. When a child learns to speak, they make hundreds of mistakes, but they don't stop. They keep talking, keep trying, and that's how they become fluent. You can do the same. So let go of perfection. Speak bravely, even if your sentences aren't perfect. Because progress comes from trying, not from waiting to be ready. 3. Start small and build confidence slowly. Sometimes, fear feels overwhelming because you try to do too much at once. Maybe you try to have a full conversation with a native speaker and you freeze. That's okay. It just means you need to start smaller. Start with simple, low-pressure situations. You can talk to yourself in English for a few minutes a day. Describe what you're doing. I'm cooking dinner. I'm walking to work. I'm watching a movie. You can practice short conversations with a friend or even record yourself speaking. These small steps build your confidence gradually. The more often you speak, the more comfortable you become. With time, what used to feel scary will start to feel normal, and then even enjoyable. Remember, fluency doesn't appear overnight. It's built step by step, word by word, conversation by conversation. Final thought. Don't let fear stop you from speaking English. Every confident English speaker you admire once felt nervous too. The difference is they kept going. So speak every day, even if it's just for a few minutes. Celebrate small wins and remind yourself that every mistake brings you closer to fluency. Confidence is not something you're born with, it's something you build. And you build it through action. Keep speaking, keep learning, and soon you'll realize the fear that once stopped you has turned into your strength. How to overcome the fear of speaking English. Let's continue talking about how to overcome the fear of speaking English. We've already learned that fear is normal and that it can be reduced step by step with the right approach. Now let's look at some simple and effective ways to build your confidence and make speaking English feel natural and enjoyable. 1. Start small and speak to yourself. One of the easiest ways to begin is by speaking to yourself in English. You don't need anyone else for this. You can do it anytime, anywhere. For example, when you're cooking, say what you're doing. I'm cutting the vegetables. Now I'm adding salt. When you're walking somewhere, describe what you see. The weather is nice today. I see people walking their dogs. You can even talk to yourself about your feelings or plans. I'm feeling a little tired, but I'm happy. Tomorrow, I want to finish my homework early. By doing this, you get used to hearing your own voice in English. At first, it might feel strange, but soon it will start to feel completely natural. This habit helps your brain think directly in English and makes speaking easier over time. 2. Practice with a supportive partner. If you have a friend or classmate who's also learning English, practice speaking together. You don't need to be perfect. Just try to talk about simple topics like your day, your hobbies, or your favorite movies. If you're nervous about speaking with native speakers, that's okay. You can start with someone who is at your level. It's often easier to practice with someone who understands your struggles. You can both make mistakes, laugh, and learn together. The key is to make practice a fun and supportive experience, not a stressful one. 3. Repeat sentences from movies, TV shows, or podcasts. A great way to build confidence and improve pronunciation is by imitating what you hear in English media. When you watch a movie or a TV show, choose short sentences that you like and repeat them out loud. Try to copy the pronunciation, tone, and rhythm of the speaker. For example, if a character says, "That's amazing," pause the video and say it the same way. This technique helps you sound more natural and improves your fluency because you're training your mouth and ears at the same time. It's also fun. You can pretend you're one of the actors. 4. Use positive affirmations. The way you talk to yourself in your mind matters a lot. If you keep thinking, "I can't speak English," or "I always make mistakes," then fear will stay with you. Instead, start using positive affirmations. These are short, encouraging sentences you can repeat to yourself every day. Try saying things like, "I am improving every day. It's okay to make mistakes. I can speak English with confidence. Every time I speak, I get better." You can say them in the morning, before class, or before a speaking session. When you change your thoughts, you change your feelings, and you'll start to feel calmer and more confident. 5. Practice in safe environments. If you feel too nervous to speak in front of others, start practicing in safe, private spaces. You can speak in front of a mirror. This helps you watch your expressions and body language. Record yourself speaking on your phone, then listen and notice what you can improve. Join small online or local speaking groups where everyone is learning just like you. When you speak in a supportive environment, there's no pressure to be perfect. You'll see that other learners make mistakes too, and that's completely okay. Learning together makes you feel understood and motivated. 6. Learn from feedback, not criticism. Many learners are afraid to speak because they don't want to be judged or corrected. But feedback is not something to fear, it's something to learn from. If someone corrects your grammar, pronunciation, or word choice, don't take it personally. Instead, see it as an opportunity to grow. Each correction is a small lesson that helps you speak better next time. Remember, feedback is a gift. It helps you make faster progress. The only real mistake is to stop speaking because of fear. 7. Create a regular speaking routine. One of the best ways to reduce fear is through consistency. When you speak regularly, you start feeling more comfortable and confident. But if you only speak once in a while, your fear will return each time. Create a simple speaking routine that fits your lifestyle. You could speak to yourself for 5 minutes every morning. Join an online speaking club once a week. Have a short English conversation with a friend after dinner. Record one short voice message or video in English each day. When speaking becomes a normal part of your routine, fear naturally fades away. You'll start to see real progress, and you'll be surprised at how much easier speaking becomes. Final words. Overcoming the fear of speaking English takes time, but it's absolutely possible. Start small, speak often, and celebrate your progress. Don't wait until you feel ready, because readiness comes after you start, not before. Every word you speak is a victory. Every mistake you make is a lesson. And every day you practice, you're one step closer to fluency. So be brave, believe in yourself, and keep going, because your voice matters, and the world deserves to hear it. Continue overcoming fear and building confidence in speaking English. When you make time to practice speaking every day, something amazing happens. Your fear begins to fade naturally. By setting aside even a few minutes daily, you'll slowly become more comfortable using English in real situations. Regular practice helps you notice your own progress. Week by week, you'll realize how much more confident and fluent you've become. 8. Remind yourself of the bigger picture. Sometimes, the fear of speaking comes from the belief that we're not good enough yet. Maybe you think, I'll speak when my English is better. But the truth is, speaking is how your English becomes better. It's important to remind yourself that learning a language is a journey, not a race. You're already on the right path just by practicing. You don't need to be perfect, you just need to keep moving forward. Think about why you started learning English in the first place. Maybe it's to open up career opportunities, study abroad, travel, or connect with people around the world. Whatever your reason is, hold it close to your heart. When you remember your why, the fear of speaking starts to feel smaller and less powerful. You're not doing this to impress others. You're doing it to grow, to learn, and to open new doors in your life. Every time you speak English, you take another step toward the life you want. So, don't let fear stand in your way. You're capable of so much more than you think. Final thoughts on overcoming fear. Overcoming the fear of speaking English is something that every learner goes through. Even confident speakers once felt nervous too. The difference is that they kept practicing instead of giving up. Remember these key ideas. Fear is normal. It means you're growing. Focus on progress, not perfection. Start small and build your confidence gradually. Use positive affirmations to change your mindset. Create a safe and supportive environment to speak. When you do these things consistently, speaking English will no longer feel scary. It will feel exciting and natural. Speaking isn't just about saying words correctly. It's about expressing yourself, connecting with people, and enjoying the learning process. So keep going. Don't let fear hold you back. You're improving every time you speak, and every word you say brings you closer to true fluency. Practical tips to improve your English speaking skills. Now that you understand how to overcome fear, let's talk about practical ways to actually improve your speaking ability. Fluency doesn't come overnight. It takes patience, practice, and a smart strategy. If you understand English well but struggle to speak, don't worry. That's completely normal, and there are clear steps you can take to fix it. 1. Speak every day, even just a little. One of the most effective ways to improve your speaking skills is to practice every single day. You don't need to talk for hours. Even 5 to 10 minutes is enough. The key is consistency, not length. The more often you speak, the faster it will start to feel natural. You can talk to yourself, describe your surroundings, or think out loud in English. Here are some examples. In the morning, describe the weather. It's sunny today and the air feels fresh. Talk about your plans. Today, I need to go to work, finish a report, and call my friend. Express how you feel. I'm feeling a bit tired, but I'm excited for the weekend. Don't worry if you make mistakes or if your sentences aren't perfect. The goal is not perfection, it's progress. Every time you speak, you're strengthening your brain's ability to form sentences quickly and naturally. Think of it like exercising a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it becomes. 2. Find a language partner or conversation buddy. Practicing alone is helpful, but talking with another person is even more powerful. Find a language partner, someone who also wants to practice English and speak regularly. You can meet online through language exchange apps, social media groups, or local English clubs. If both of you are learners, don't worry. You can help each other, correct small mistakes, and build confidence together. Try setting a simple goal like having one 15-minute English conversation every day. Talking about one topic per session, for example, food, hobbies, travel, or future dreams. The more you speak, the more comfortable you'll become, and soon, English conversations will feel completely natural. Continue. Practical tips to improve your English speaking skills. 2. Find a language partner or conversation buddy. Having a language partner or conversation buddy is one of the best ways to practice speaking English. This could be a friend, a classmate, a family member, or even someone you meet online who is also learning English. A language exchange works really well because both people get to practice. For example, you can spend some time speaking in English and then switch to your partner's language so both of you learn and help each other. It becomes a two-way learning experience, friendly, supportive, and motivating. If you don't have someone nearby to practice with, don't worry. There are many online platforms where you can easily find people who want to practice speaking English too. Websites and apps like italki, Tandem, or HelloTalk are great options. You can meet English learners and native speakers from all over the world. When choosing a conversation partner, pick someone who is patient, kind, and understanding. The goal is not to impress each other, but to grow together. When you practice with someone supportive, speaking English becomes more enjoyable and much less stressful. Try setting small, clear goals, for example. Have a 10-minute chat in English every day. Choose a topic like travel, food, or daily life and talk about it together. Take turns asking and answering questions. Over time, these small, regular conversations will make a big difference in your fluency and confidence. 3. Listen and repeat. Imitate native speakers. Many cities and online platforms have English conversation clubs where learners come together to talk about different topics, play games, or share stories. In these groups, everyone is learning, so you don't need to worry about making mistakes. You'll find people who understand your challenges and encourage you to keep speaking. If you prefer learning online, you can join virtual conversation groups on platforms like Zoom, Discord, or Facebook. Some organizations also host public speaking workshops where you can practice speaking in front of small audiences. These experiences help you gain confidence, improve fluency, and learn how to express yourself naturally in front of others. By joining a speaking group, you'll also make friends who share the same goal, improving English. Practicing together will keep you motivated and make learning more fun. 10. Be patient and stay motivated. Improving your English speaking skills takes time, effort, and consistency. It's normal to feel frustrated sometimes, especially when progress feels slow. But remember, every small step counts. Be patient with yourself and celebrate small wins. When you say a full sentence without hesitation, when you successfully order food in English, when you talk to someone and they understand you, these are all big achievements. Progress in language learning happens gradually, not overnight. What matters most is staying consistent. Even 10 minutes of speaking practice each day is better than one long session once a week. To keep yourself motivated, always remind yourself why you're learning English. Maybe it's to travel abroad, to study, to get a better job, or simply to connect with people around the world. Whatever your reason is, keep it close to your heart. It will give you the strength to keep going even when it feels hard. If you ever feel stuck, look back at how far you've come. Compare your speaking ability now to where you started. You'll see real improvement, even if it's small. Confidence grows with time and practice. Final thoughts. Improving your English speaking skills doesn't happen overnight, but it's absolutely possible for everyone, including you. The key is to practice regularly, stay positive, and be patient with yourself. By speaking a little every day, finding a language partner, listening and repeating native speakers, expanding your vocabulary, recording yourself, thinking in English, and staying motivated, you'll gradually become more confident, fluent, and natural in your speech. Remember, you don't need to speak perfectly to be a good communicator. The goal is to share your ideas, express yourself, and connect with others. Every time you speak, you're improving, and every mistake you make brings you closer to fluency. Keep going, keep speaking, and trust the process. Your English will grow stronger every single day. Listening and speaking connection. Listening and speaking are two sides of the same coin when it comes to learning English. These two skills are closely connected. Improving one automatically helps you improve the other. Many learners find speaking difficult because they don't fully understand how strongly listening and speaking support each other. Once you realize how this connection works, you can use it to make faster progress and become more confident in both skills. The importance of listening for speaking. When we speak, we are really reproducing sounds, words, and sentence patterns that we have heard before. That's why listening is a foundation for speaking. The more you listen to English, the more naturally you'll be able to speak it. 1. You absorb pronunciation and intonation. Listening carefully to native or fluent speakers helps you learn how words are pronounced and how the voice naturally rises and falls during speech. This music of English, called intonation, shows emotion, emphasis, and meaning. For example, rising tone often used for questions, "Are you coming?" Falling tone used for statements, "I'm coming now." By listening often, you unconsciously pick up these patterns and begin to imitate them naturally, making your own speech smoother and more expressive. 2. You learn natural sentence structure. When you listen to real English through movies, podcasts, or conversations, you hear how words fit together naturally. You start noticing which phrases go together, how sentences are organized, and what sounds right to native speakers. This helps you form sentences more easily when you speak because your brain has already stored examples of correct grammar and rhythm. Instead of translating word by word from your native language, you begin to think and speak in English automatically. 3. You build vocabulary naturally. Listening exposes you to a huge variety of words and expressions, including idioms, collocations, and slang. You hear not only what words mean, but also how they are used in real life. For example, hearing someone say, "That movie was mind-blowing," teaches you that mind-blowing means amazing, something you can later use in your own conversations. The more you listen, the bigger your vocabulary grows, and the more confident you become when speaking. 4. You understand cultural contexts. Listening to native speakers also helps you learn about cultural references, humor, and expressions that are part of everyday English. For instance, phrases like "break the ice," "hit the books," or "piece of cake" might not make sense literally, but hearing them in real conversations helps you understand their true meanings. When you understand these cultural details, your communication becomes more natural and engaging. You don't just speak English, you connect with people on a deeper level. The feedback loop between listening and speaking. Listening and speaking create a continuous learning cycle, a feedback loop that strengthens both skills over time. Here's how it works. Listen. You hear English sounds, sentence patterns, and pronunciation from native speakers. Process. Your brain recognizes the patterns and stores them subconsciously. Speak. When you try to speak, you naturally use the patterns you've already heard. Adjust. You listen to your own voice, compare it with what you've heard before, and gradually improve accuracy. This feedback loop helps your brain become familiar with English rhythm, sounds, and expressions. The more you repeat the cycle, listen, speak, adjust, repeat, the faster you'll develop fluency. For example, after listening to a short podcast or video in English, try repeating a few sentences aloud. Record yourself and compare it to the original. Notice how your pronunciation or tone differs, then try again. Each time, you'll get closer to natural English rhythm and flow. Final thought. Listening and speaking work best together, not separately. When you make listening a regular part of your learning routine, your speaking will improve naturally, your pronunciation becomes clearer, your confidence grows, and your sentences sound more authentic. So, make it a habit to listen actively every day. Watch English movies, listen to songs or podcasts, repeat phrases you hear, and imitate native speakers. Over time, you'll notice that your listening comprehension and speaking fluency develop hand in hand. Remember, you don't learn to speak English by speaking alone, but by listening deeply and speaking often. The role of listening in building fluency. Recording yourself and comparing your speech to native speakers can help you notice important details in your pronunciation, intonation, and rhythm. It shows you which sounds or words you need to improve, and over time, this practice helps you become more fluent and confident. Listening and fluency. Fluency in English doesn't just mean speaking fast, it means being able to speak clearly, smoothly, and naturally without too many pauses or hesitations. Listening plays a big part in achieving fluency because it helps your brain get used to the natural flow and rhythm of the language. When you listen to real conversations, you'll notice that native speakers don't usually speak in long, complex sentences. Instead, they speak in short, connected phrases. They also link words together, a feature called connected speech. For example, instead of saying, "Do you want to go to the park?" it often sounds like, "Dia wanna go to the park?" This is how English sounds in real life. By listening to these natural patterns again and again, your brain will start to copy them automatically. When you speak, you'll begin to sound smoother and more natural, without thinking too hard about grammar or structure. Over time, speaking will feel easier and more automatic. How listening helps you overcome speaking barriers. One of the biggest challenges for English learners is the fear of making mistakes while speaking. But if you listen carefully to native speakers, you'll notice something important. They make mistakes too. Even native speakers sometimes pause, repeat themselves, or change what they say in the middle of a sentence. Listening to real conversations helps you understand that mistakes are a normal part of communication. Good speakers don't stop when they make a mistake. They simply correct themselves and keep talking. For example, I went to the store yesterday. By hearing this kind of natural correction, you learn that communication doesn't have to be perfect. This understanding reduces your anxiety and helps you feel more relaxed when speaking English. When you realize that mistakes are normal, you'll speak more freely and confidently. Developing listening skills to improve speaking. If you want to use listening as a tool to improve your speaking, you need to develop strong listening habits. Here are some simple but effective ways to do that. 1. Listen to a variety of content. Expose yourself to many different types of English. Watch movies, listen to podcasts, YouTube videos, news reports, or even English songs. Each type of content helps you learn something different. For example, podcasts teach you everyday conversation and natural tone. News shows help you learn formal English and clear pronunciation. Movies and series teach you slang, idioms, and cultural expressions. Listening to different accents and speaking styles will train your brain to understand English in any situation. 2. Start with slower, easier content. If you're just beginning, it's okay to start small. Choose slower materials made for English learners, such as learner podcasts, audiobooks, or YouTube channels with clear pronunciation. These will help you understand sentence patterns and build confidence. As you improve, challenge yourself with faster, more natural content such as native podcasts, movies, or interviews. This gradual increase will help you understand real-life English more easily. 3. Use subtitles or transcripts. When listening to videos or podcasts, use subtitles or written transcripts if they are available. Reading along while listening helps you connect spoken words with their written forms. This strengthens your vocabulary, spelling, and listening comprehension at the same time. Here's a useful technique. First, listen without subtitles to test your understanding. Then, listen again with subtitles or a transcript to check what you missed. Finally, repeat some of the sentences out loud to practice pronunciation and fluency. This method helps you improve both your listening and speaking skills faster. Active listening and the power of listening, speaking connection using subtitles the right way. Using subtitles or transcripts while you listen can be very helpful. They let you see the words as you hear them, which helps you remember new vocabulary and understand how each word is pronounced. At first, you can watch or listen with subtitles in English to follow along more easily. After you become more comfortable, try turning the subtitles off and challenge yourself to understand by listening only. This practice strengthens both your listening and speaking skills over time. Listen actively, not passively. Don't just let English play in the background, engage with it. When you listen, focus on how people speak, not just what they say. Pay close attention to the speaker's tone, pauses, and phrasing. Notice how they emphasize certain words to show emotion or importance, and how the sentence rhythm changes when they are excited, serious, or surprised. Try to imitate these patterns when you speak. For example, if you hear how a speaker's voice rises when asking a question or falls when finishing a statement, practice doing the same. Active listening helps you sound more natural and expressive. It's one of the best ways to develop both listening and speaking skills at the same time. Practice listening to real conversations. One of the most effective ways to learn natural English is to listen to how people really talk in everyday life. Instead of focusing only on scripted textbook dialogues, find podcasts, YouTube videos, or audio recordings that include authentic conversations between native speakers. These real-life conversations expose you to common expressions and idioms. Everyday slang. The rhythm and flow of natural speech. How people interrupt politely, agree, or change topics. This kind of listening teaches you the real English that people actually use, not just the formal kind you see in lessons or grammar books. As you listen more, you'll understand different accents, tones, and styles of communication. Then, when you speak, your English will sound more natural and fluent. The power of listening and speaking together. Listening and speaking are like two sides of the same coin. They work best together. When you listen, you are training your brain to recognize sounds, words, and patterns. When you speak, you are practicing those same sounds and patterns out loud. Each skill strengthens the other. Think of it as a cycle of improvement. The more you listen, the better you speak. The more you speak, the better you listen. When you listen to more English, you build confidence and accuracy in speaking. And when you speak regularly, your brain becomes more familiar with English rhythm and pronunciation, making it easier to understand when you hear it again. By combining both listening and speaking practice, you create a strong, natural learning habit, one that moves you quickly toward fluency. Conclusion: the listening, speaking connection. In conclusion, listening and speaking are deeply connected, and together they form the foundation of language learning. Listening helps you absorb the sounds, rhythm, and structure of English. Speaking lets you use what you have learned in real conversations. Both are equally important and support each other. Improving one automatically improves the other. By listening actively to English through podcasts, movies, interviews, or daily conversations, you train your mind to understand the language more naturally and easily. At the same time, practicing speaking allows you to apply what you've heard and express yourself clearly and confidently. Don't feel discouraged if speaking feels difficult at first. Remember, every English learner goes through this stage. With steady practice, patience, and the courage to make mistakes, you will grow stronger in both listening and speaking. Fluency takes time, but every effort counts. The more you listen and speak, the faster your progress will be. Keep practicing every day, enjoy the journey, and trust that your hard work will lead you to success. You've got this. Keep listening, keep speaking, and soon you'll find yourself communicating in English with ease and confidence.